Hello everyone and welcome to Metagame Mastery. It is preview season for Rivals of Ixalan. So much is going on right now. I'm going to go over the Planeswalker decks and an instant staple for Commander because this is a very exciting time to be an Elder Dragon Highlander enthusiast. Remember, if you like what we are doing here, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. That said, let's jump right into it. First up on the chopping block, we have Angrath, Minotaur Pirate. This is our first look at Angrath, who is referenced in the original Ixalan lore. Let's take a look at this card. He is from the Planeswalker deck. He is 6 mana, 4 colorless, black and a red, 5 loyalty to start, legendary Planeswalker. He has a +2 ability. Angrath Minotaur Pirate deals 1 damage to target opponent and each creature that player controls. -3, return target pirate card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and -11, destroy all creatures target opponent controls. Angrath Minotaur Pirate deals damage to that player equal to their total power. Ho 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 ho, wow. Yeah, that's a doozy right there. Let's take a second to unpack this because oh, this is gonna be good. So his +2 ability isn't going to do much in, say, Standard right now, but in Commander specifically, this is going to clear out the chump blockers. This is going to make it so that those token decks, you can handle them. And specifically for pirate decks who are looking to get across the board in mass so that we can trigger, say, I don't know, Admiral Beckett Brass's ability, they're going to have a clear path, and that's fantastic. Any sort of selective board wipe is powerful, and this is no exception. On top of that, we have the value engine. His -3 loyalty ability is return target pirate card from your graveyard to the battlefield, giving it instant pirate tribal synergy. This is just what the doctor ordered for that deck in EDH. If you are an Admiral Beckett Brass, sorry, that's a mouthful, player out there, Christmas came early when you saw this preview. And then finally, destroy all creatures target opponent controls. He deals damage to that player equal to their total power. In EDH, that's a game ender right there. That's saying to the whoever has the strongest board position, not only am I going to wipe your board so that everyone else is free to attack you, but you're going to suffer for having such a powerful board position. And more often than not, this will absolutely kill that opponent. This is a fantastic ability on a fantastic card for Pirate Tribal. Everybody who's a fan of that deck strategy needs to pick one of these up. Next up, we have Angrath's Fury. It is a 5 mana, 3 colorless, black-red sorcery. Destroy target creature. Angrath's Fury does 3 damage to target Planeswalker. You may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Angrath Minotaur Pirate, reveal it, and put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Planeswalker decks, every one of them comes with a foil Planeswalker, like the one we saw before, and a couple cards like this one that have a specific game effect and allow you to tutor for that Planeswalker, so you're more likely to be able to play it. That's the big payoff in these decks. That said, some of them have really good abilities, some of them are not so useful. This one falls in that former category. It's destroy target creature. For 5 mana, that's not so good for, say, Standard. Even Limited, it's iffy. But in Commander, where you're looking at your opponents regularly playing creatures of 5, 6, 7, 8, even higher mana costs, this is going to do some work for you. It does the 3 additional damage, which is always nice, and is a tutor ability. That's a whole lot of use coming out of one card. And I gotta say, if you're looking at building a budget commander deck, maybe something intro level, and you tell me that you're going to give me a card that's basically an unlicensed disintegration at sorcery speed with an additional tutor ability stapled on for 2 more mana, I'm going to say that's pretty darn good. That's playable. And if you're looking to build a commander deck with Angrath Minotaur Pirate, this is kind of a no-brainer. This is Angrath's Ambusher. He is a 3 mana, 2 colorless, 1 black, 2/3 Orc Pirate. Angrath's Ambusher gets +2/+0 as long as you control an Angrath Planeswalker. Now, for those of us who aren't familiar with Planeswalker decks, I'll continue to explain how they're put together. Each one of them will come with a creature that gets an additional bonus if a Planeswalker with the same name as the title or character for the deck is in play. This one, for example, is fine. 2/3 for 3 in the limited format is okay. It's a pirate, so it should synergize with your other tribal strategies, and it's an orc. And it gets the additional upside that if you draw it later in the game, it's not just a dud card. You're actually getting a lot of value, dropping a 4/3 orc pirate for 3 mana. It's obviously not going to see any play outside of the Planeswalker decks, but for the simple purpose of matching up Planeswalker deck versus Planeswalker deck, this card's going to do some work for you, and I think it'll do just fine. Here we have another Planeswalker deck exclusive. This is Swab Goblin. He's a 2 mana, 1 colorless, 1 red, 2/2 Goblin Pirate with no abilities. That may not seem all that flashy, and it isn't, but once upon a time, we're talking a year and a half, less than 2 years ago, the idea of getting a 2 mana, 2/2 in red with no drawback was mind-blowing. It's becoming a little more commonplace that we're getting these vanilla bears for red, so this isn't anything special anymore. But for the simple purpose of playing Planeswalker deck versus Planeswalker deck, it's good value. It's going to put in work for you, and you'll be happy to draw at early game. Next up, we have Cinder Barons. This is an alternate art version that will be exclusive to the Planeswalker deck. Just thought I'd show it to you. It's nice art. I'm looking forward to adding it to my collection. Next, we have the other Planeswalker from the Planeswalker decks, Vraska Scheming Gorgon. She's a 6 mana, 4 colorless, black, Planeswalker that comes into play with 5 loyalty. Her plus ability gives her +2, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Her -3 ability destroys target creature. And her ultimate is -10 until end of turn, creatures you control gain Death Touch. And whenever this creature deals combat damage to an opponent, that player loses the game. You know, I take it back. It's not combat damage. That would be too under control. No, this says damage at all. That's huge. All right, let's take a step back and unpack this. First and foremost, I want to draw your attention to the fact that this Vraska has the same converted mana cost as the Vraska from Ixalan. Now, mind you, it's not on the same power level, but there's a lot to work with here. The plus ability's somewhat mediocre. It can eke through some damage right from the get. The -3 ability, destroy target creature, protects the Planeswalker so that you are guaranteed to get some value out of this card, even when playing from behind. And the ultimate is exactly double her starting loyalty. That's important for a couple different reasons. First and foremost, if you're working your way up to the ultimate as is intended, you'll be able to use it and Vraska will survive that on the off chance that you don't win the game right then and there. Secondly, this means that in Super Friends decks that run doubling season, looking at you, Atraxa, this is an instant win card. You can drop it, maybe have some tokens on the board from another Planeswalker, Elsbeth, Jace, etc., etc., even the other Vraska. And when she comes into play, you can use her ultimate immediately, giving them all Death Touch, and whenever the creature deals damage to an opponent, that player loses the game. So they can attack in, or if you have any sort of way to make them ping an opponent, give them little Timmy abilities. That's an instant kill ability. That's huge in a format where normally you'd have to be dealing 40 damage per player in order to eliminate someone. So I definitely think that she's going to find a place in Commander, especially in some budget Super Friends decks who are just looking to expand on their kill conditions. This card is going to see some use. Now here's Vraska's tutor card. It's Vraska's Scorn. It's 4 mana, 2 colorless, black, sorcery. Target opponent loses 4 life. You may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Vraska, Scheming Gorgon, reveal it, put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. Now, I'm going to say right from the get, this isn't as good as the other tutor card we looked at earlier. This one is significantly weaker. It's basically a very specific diabolic tutor with the additional benefit of an opponent losing 4 life. That said, I don't see this affecting the board state enough to really justify it, especially in a Super Friends deck. I don't see this getting a lot of play. That said, in the Planeswalker deck versus Planeswalker deck scenario, it's fine. You'll be happy to run it. You'll be happy to play it. Now, Vraska's Conquistador is a 2 mana, 1 colorless, 1 black, vampire, 2/1 vampire soldier. Whenever Vraska's Conquistador attacks or blocks, if you control a Vraska Planeswalker, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Now this one is interesting. It's a bear with situational upside. It's going to come in, attack for 2, get you some decent value right out the gate, and then much later in the game, if it's still on board, or if you wind up playing it to just get cards out of your hand on turn 7 in the Planeswalker decks, then you get some real value because it's 2 mana. You get 2 life drain every turn that it manages to attack, and you can eke out another 2 damage. Maybe getting past additional blockers. It just sort of clogs up the board a little bit more and guarantees that you've got that 4 life swing every single time. I think it'll do a lot of work for you in that Planeswalker deck scenario. Other than that, it's not going to see any play. Vampire Champion, 4 mana, 3 colorless and a black, 3/3, Vampire Soldier with Death Touch. Nothing wrong with this. If you could pick this in draft, this would be an amazing curve filler. When you get the opportunity to play this in a Planeswalker deck versus Planeswalker deck scenario, then it's going to just absolutely shine. Outside of that, I can't even see this getting any play in a Vampire Tribal deck for EDH. It's just not going to make the cut. Next up, we have Tetsamok Primal Death. He's a 6-drop, 6/6 for 4 colorless, black, legendary creature Elder Dinosaur with Death Touch. He has the additional ability to pay 1 black mana, reveal this card from your hand, put a prey counter on target creature. Activate this ability only during your turn. When he enters the battlefield, destroy each creature your opponents control with a prey counter on it. First and foremost, this thing is an absolute bomb in limited. Has potential to find its way into some constructed decks and future metas. No matter how you look at it, this thing is sheer value. 6 mana for a 6/6 with upside. Passes the vanilla test right there. It's an Elder Dinosaur. It's going to have tribal synergies in some builds. But what I really love about it is the ability to 2 for 1, 3 for 1. Nix multiple creatures on your opponent's board without taking anything away from yours, and in fact gaining significant board presence. This thing can see play in cubes. This thing can see play in any EDH deck that runs black, and you'll never, unless you're really deep into some sort of combo, you have a very specific build, this thing is going to pull its weight for you. It's just a good card, period. Next, we have Ghalta Primal Hunger. He's a 12-drop. Yeah, hold on. 10 colorless, green, 12/12 legendary Elder Dinosaur. Now, he costs X colorless mana less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control, and he has trample. That's what puts this card over the top, in my opinion. I mean, what a big body. We're talking about a 12 mana, 12/12 that you can reduce the cost on. People are already brewing ways to drop this guy on turn 4 or 5 in standard, and frankly, I could see it. This thing's a monster if you can get him on the board. Now, yes, he dies to Doomblade, doesn't everything, but if this puts your opponent in a position where they have to answer him right away. If they don't have that card in hand, if they wasted it on one of your other value dinosaurs already, if they're running out of gas, then this is going to end the game for you. That trample is nothing to scoff at. The additional evasion on a 12/12, that's a game ender right there. Now, I'm sure you saw it in the caption. Instant staple for Commander. And this is the card I was talking about. Vona's Hunger. 3 mana, 2 colorless, and a black. Instant spell. Ascend. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. If you have the City's Blessing, instead, each opponent sacrifices half the creatures he or she controls, rounded up. Holy cats! All right, let's start by unpacking this. It's a 3 mana instant that forces your opponent to sack a creature. You've got an edict effect for 3 mana in Modern Magic. That's good as it is. We've got Ascend here, and there's a lot of talk about treasure tokens, building up board states and standard, and that's all well and good if you want to try and reinvent standard here. but let's talk about a format where we know big board states are a thing. And yeah, I'm going right back to it because that's where the action is happening. Elder Dragon Highlander. Now, everyone's focusing on tokens and trying to come up with ways to pack the board without necessarily deciding the game. What we're talking about to trigger Ascend and get your city's blessing forever is 10 permanents. That includes creatures, that includes artifacts, that includes planeswalkers, enchantments, that includes the all-important card type that I just don't hear enough discussion about, lands, people. How easy is it for, even in a stalled board state in Commander, for you to have 5 lands on board, 2 creatures, 2 mana rocks, and maybe an equipment like Lightning Greaves, for example. Super simple. You can turn this into a one-sided, cut each opponent's board in half, leave your board entirely intact. 3 mana instant on turn 5, easy, and that's in a stalled board state. This card is going to do work in Commander. Every time you draw it, you're going to be happy. There's just no downside to this card. It's fantastic. And keep your eye out on this Ascend mechanic. I think you're going to see a lot of it in future EDH games. A lot of it. It's just too easy, too good. Brass's Bounty is a 7 mana, 6 colorless, red and 1 red sorcery. For each land you control, create a colorless creature artifact token with tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Now this is a way for you to quote unquote double and or fix your mana. This is a way for you to store mana for future turns and bleed it down. Or more importantly, just like we were looking at the Ascend mechanic, it's a way to just flood the board. If you have the mana to cast this, odds are you're going to get a ton of tokens out of this. Now there are some cheeky ways for people to turn this into a kill condition with, say, Mechanized Production. Love that card. There are ways for people to take advantage of this with Revel in Riches. And so I think that it's possible you could see this in Grixis builds, especially in Commander, trying to combo out. I definitely don't think this is going to be a $20, $30 card where you're going to wind up winning every standard match, but in the right combo build, whether you're taking advantage of Metalcraft, artifact synergies, Mechanized Production for alternate win conditions, or Revel in Riches, this has potential to see use in many niche decks, which makes it very exciting. Very exciting. All right, this card does everything all at once with no downside. It's beautiful. Let's go over it. It is the Immortal Sun, 6 colorless mana, legendary artifact. Players can't activate Planeswalker loyalty abilities. At the beginning of your draw step, draw an additional card. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Wow. Okay, first, let's just point out what this is from a lore standpoint. This is what everyone's after. The whole quest in Ixalan to find the lost city of Vraska was to find this artifact. And no wonder. I love how the artifact that prevents people from planeswalking away from Ixalan has the ability that players can't activate Planeswalker loyalty ability. That's a very unique power that will shut down many cards and even many decks. This is an amazing hate card for those Super Friends decks that really took over a lot of play groups in Commander last year. And then you're getting the additional upside of being a one-sided Howling Mine. You're getting the additional upside of ramping every single spell by reducing its cost by 1 colorless mana. And then you get to an Anthem effect for all your creatures on top of that. This makes the Staff of Nin look like absolute weak sauce, and it's going to be amazing in many Commander decks. And of course, just like every block, they're going to include Evolving Wilds and Rivals of Ixalan. What you're looking at on the screen right now is the foil alternate art promo. I think it looks amazing. Wouldn't mind picking up a few of those. Now we've got Captain's Hook, which, timeout, this is just cool from a flavor perspective. They actually have Captain Hook's hand as an equipment in Magic the Gathering. You couldn't ask for something more on point when it comes to flavor in a pirate tribal set. Now, it's a 3-drop, 3 colorless mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, has menace, and is a pirate in addition to its other creature types, of course. Whenever Captain's Hook becomes unattached from a permanent, destroy that permanent. Equip cost of 1. Okay, so this is just straight value. If you had to endure getting beat down with a Pirate's Cutlass at all in limited formats through Ixalan, then you know the potent power that +2 equipment can have on a board state. This thing is going to go to work for you. It's going to add menace and pirate tribal synergies for all the random curve filler you have in your deck. Amazing card in limited. Funny card for your pirate tribal EDH deck. I don't think this is going to cross over in standard at all, but I think anyone who plays this in their pirate tribal EDH deck is definitely winning on style points, if nothing else. Next, we have a reprint, Silvergill Adept. It's a 2-mana, 1 colorless, 1 blue, 2/1 Merfolk Wizard. As an additional cost to cast Silvergill Adept, reveal a Merfolk card from your hand or pay 3 colorless mana. When Silvergill Adept enters the battlefield, draw a card. Wow. Now, this card is a reprint, as I said before, has been released in previous sets, and has seen modern play. That's how you know that it has been good, will be good again in the future. I love that it's being reprinted so that newer players can have access to it, and hopefully this will be one of the pieces that helps Merfolk Tribal break into standard. There's a lot of good pieces coming in Rivals of Ixalan. It's been promised by a lot of developers, and frankly, I just can't wait to be running my Silvergill Adepts among the other new Merfolk cards. And this is the big one. I think I'm more excited about this card than any other card that we'll review here today. Storm the Vaults. It is a 4-drop for 2 colorless, 1 blue, 1 red, legendary enchantment. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a colorless treasure artifact token. With tap, sack this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 5 or more artifacts, transform Storm the Vaults. And what it transforms into is Vault of Catlacan. It's a legendary land that says tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, Or you can tap, add 1 blue to your mana pool for each artifact you control. Wow! So first, let's unpack this because there's a lot to go over here. First, we have a 4 mana, and is it colors? So it's a little restrictive. Legendary enchantment that turns all of your creatures into potential mana ramp, color fixing, and it builds up your board for those mechanized production, ascend, and other artifact synergies we're talking about here. Speaking of artifact synergies, you can very easily already have the 5 treasure tokens in play, or any other artifacts for that matter, to flip this at the beginning of your end step. You get an additional land in play, which, if we've learned anything for Search for Azcanta, especially in the finals for the national championship this year, that extra land drop goes a long way. This one taps for 1 mana of any color. You've got color fixing on top of mana ramp. Then you get the Tolarian Academy ability, which, if you've been playing for 20 years like I have, you know how out of control that ability gets. This is outstanding, and it will be legal in Commander. Oh, this card has the potential to see Modern play. Don't know where it's going to go yet. I freely admit that. It will definitely break Commander play, and it's just a good card in general. I think this is my #1 must-have from the set so far, and I just can't wait to put this in my decks. Well, that's all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any additional thoughts, if I missed anything, or you know exactly what deck you're putting each of these cards in, go ahead and leave a comment below. In the meantime, everybody have a great new year.